Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast for agency owners, hosted by agency veteran and coach Steve Guberman. Agency Bytes is a podcast focused on delivering actionable agency information from agency experts in about 25 minutes. Why 25 minutes? Because who has the attention span for much more these days? And you can squeeze in a listen between meetings with time for a bathroom break or coffee refill before your next meeting.
Welcome to Agency Bytes, a podcast dedicated to helping creative entrepreneurs thrive. I'm Steve Guberman from Agency Outsight, where I coach agency owners to build the agency of their dreams. This week, my guest is Jamie Brindle. Jamie is a freelancer who advises over 500,000 other creatives on social media about building a scalable and sustainable freelance business. It is awesome to have you here because I've seen your content for a long time. Most recently, I've seen some of your ads saying, I want to be on your podcast, and here we are. So pretty sweet. Your ad worked.
It's my pleasure to be here. If you can't tell already from social media, I love nerding out about this stuff. So any chance I get.
For anybody who's listening or watching that doesn't know you, hasn't seen your content, what's your kind of backstory on now you're trying to educate, more freelancers? What's the path that led you here?
Yeah, for sure. So, for those of that don't know me, I talk on the internet every day about how freelancers can be scaling their businesses, growing sustainable and successful freelance businesses, by whatever definition of sustainable and successful they have, right? Because everybody's definition of those two words is different. But we started this journey, and when I say we, I'm talking about my wife, who's also my business partner, and myself. We started this journey in 2020 when we were looking to scale for new ways to scale our agency business, our video production business. And, we were kind of barking up the digital products tree and thought that, let's try and build an audience on social media. And we didn't know if that audience should be comprised of our clients, our B2B, agency clients or what. And it was right around 2020 when a bunch of people were losing their jobs and, were really concerned about what the future held. And we thought we could be of some value to our fellow practitioners instead. So we went that route, not knowing whether or not it would have any impact on our agency business, which, spoiler alert, it did. But that's how we got started.
So initially it was, I want to be helpful. Well, no, initially it was, how do we grow our business? And then it was like, wow, people need help. You leaned into I need to be helpful to our community. And it, kind of came back around and pushed you forward with the business, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it was, we were assessing kind of what the byproducts of our day-to-day were that would be valuable first to potential customers. But then we realized, hey, we've been doing this for a minute. We've got some, we take a lot of insights for granted, hard-earned insights that you had to go out there and get beat up over before you clock them. Why don't we, that's a byproduct. So why don't we share that and help folks? And then lo and behold, I was probably 6 months into growing the audience where, I got on a sales call with a major top 5 brands in the world type company. And, the VP of communications gets on the Zoom and goes, oh, hey, you're the mustache guy on TikTok, and it's not even, that wasn't even an avatar that we thought we were making content for. But it happened on the next call and then maybe 2 calls after that. And, you realize that, it's pretty helpful to have an audience in those conversations.
Yeah, you've initially you built the trust from the door. They get on a call, they know you, they know your content, so they trust you, and they probably like you because you come through in your videos as a very personable and fun and jovial freelancer. So yeah, no, like and trust is all right there from the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that
it does. If you're talking to a lineup of providers and one of them has an audience of other providers, it's like, why go to anybody other than the person that all these guys are taking their advice from, so it's definitely a powerful position to start a conversation.
They already, your peers trust you. Why wouldn't the potential client as well? Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You talk about like defining success on as a freelancer on your own. When you guys kind of started out on this journey, how was your vision, you and your wife's vision of success different than it is now?
Oh, that's a fascinating question. I mean, so I started freelancing when I was 17, and Courtney joined like 6 years ago. We started working together. So I would say, there have been a couple iterations of that, a couple of different
Hmm.
versions of success. So obviously, when I was 17, my vision of success was that of a 17-year-old boy's, right? So
Yeah,
there are the things that, and I guess some grown men still think that way, but I was in it for the cars and the money, and now it's more, it's I forget who said it, but somebody said, success or freedom is waking up in the morning and doing whatever the hell you want to do, right? And I
yeah,
think that's more so, what freelancing means to me now is, I can wake up and set the pace. I can chase down the ideas that I want to chase down. I don't have to, ask permission. We've got a pretty healthy, savings at this point. We've got a pretty healthy client list at this point. So it really is more just, fun and exploratory. And I'd call that success for sure. But,
yep,
success, for the future for me is to just, see how far we can take this. It's like fashion; it's never finished, right? How many more people can we help? How much more
hmm,
helpful can we be? The the future of the American workforce, by 2027, in America alone, it's going to be a majority freelancers. So that's where this is headed, right? This is we're taking the workforce by storm, and I want to lead that charge, and I want to help people, kind of take command of their destinies as best as possible on a massive scale. So that's it.
yeah. That's it. That's all. Yeah. So from freelancing versus like a business, and they're two distinct differences. Do you have any vision or inkling to take what you do and turn it into more of a business structure that other than just you and your wife?
Yeah, I mean, it is the terms are conflating, and that's something I'm finding myself talking about more and more recently. Like we had a freelancer meetup here in LA last week, and I gave a little talk on this because I was like, we're not what we were 15 years ago. 15 years ago, the word freelancer meant employee for rent, an hourly person that came and sat at a desk when you needed an extra set of hands on a project.
Hmm.
And now freelancer means specialist. It means somebody who comes in and solves a major problem for you, right? And more so than ever, freelancers, are business owners. They're thinking about their businesses more than they're thinking about their clients' businesses, which is a very important distinction to make, right? And so we came up with a new term. We're calling them Entrelancers because they're
Okay.
building an entrepreneurial effort with the tenets of freelancing.
Yeah.
To build something for themselves, to build an asset for themselves. And so, like Courtney and I, like we've got our merry band of freelancers, that we've worked with over the years. But they're not employees, right? It's folks that we bring in when we need to flex, when we need to get big, and then they go off and do their own thing when we need to get small. And I think that's really the future um, of work. The more agencies we talk to, they're headed to that model if
Yep.
they're not there already. And even so, like corporations, like our enterprise clients are thinking this way, right? Like, wait, I don't know when it emerged, but like when was the first time you saw fractional CMO or fractional CFO? Like I think we're headed in a direction where um, there will be a group of LLCs banded together toward a common effort, and we'll call that a company. We'll call that a corporation, and it's very exciting to me.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I look at it as like a single person is a solopreneur. I love your uh, phrase of uh, freelancepreneur. What was the
Entrelancer,
word?
Entrelancer.
Entrelancer. All right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that. But once you turn it into this model of I'm going out and hunting and I'm bringing in freelancers to expand and contract. I mean, my agency did that, and I've been out of that agency for 10 years now. So it has become a far more popular model. I don't think I heard of a fractional anything before COVID. That
Yeah,
became like the ubiquitous term of, I'm in transition. No, I'm a fractional something, you know?
exactly. Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, I guess they are conflated, but also there's a distinction between freelancers. I'm a hired gun and I'm going to go work for you today and Susan tomorrow and, Jody the next day and, Walmart the day after or whatever, versus I'm my own business and I'm bringing people in and growing it. One of the key differences is something of value, right? And so as a freelancer, take me out of it. If I go sit on the beach, the business typically isn't going to be making money. If I build a business and I've got systems and people and all these things in place, I can go sit on the beach and we're still making money and growing without me.
Yep.
So to me, big distinctions versus freelancer. And your focus is I want to help these like individuals who maybe they're banding together or working on their own, build structure, build security, build, their version of success.
And I mean that's what you're describing is what I would call the scalable nature of this effort, right? Because there's something to be considered with freelancers is if you only make money when you're sitting down at a desk, you don't own a business, you own a job,
Right.
right? And you're going to have to do that forever if you want to make money. And so that is something that we talk a lot about. That's this Entrelancer effort. It's it's what's the scalable version of this? How do you know if you need to go on a vacation or if you don't feel like working this week that you're still going to make, still going to make the revenue that you need to make for your goals that year? So it's building that effort out, and that could be by diversifying the revenue pie with some productized services or some digital products, but it could also mean that merry band of subcontractors that know what to do when a certain project comes in.
Yeah. And you guys have shifted into kind of digital products, courses, things like that to diversify your income as well?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was the question that's started it all. Was we were at the point where we had scaled with price. We had started charging significantly more than we had. We had scaled, with subcontractors, meaning that we could bring in 8 times the work because we had the team now. We had the depth chart. So if subcontractor A was unavailable, we'd go to B, then we'd go to C. That way we knew we were always covered. And then we were like, okay, what's left? And it's the other two plays left on the table are productized services, which is where you build out a version of your offer that costs you the same in time and money every time it's delivered, no negotiation. And digital products, which is more traditional, something off the shelf, right? So that was what started our social media conversation was, okay, who are we going to sell these digital products to? So yeah, it's all about scaling out or diversifying that revenue to make it to the point where you're not so reliant on one offer.
Yeah. What's your kind of breakdown of your day look like? Are you still, on the computer designing, doing video work, or like what's the mix between video and social and things like that?
Yeah, it's interesting. It varies, but I try to do a 50-50 split between client work and business work, right?
Hmm.
So business work, working on the business for me would be social media efforts, networking efforts, nurturing leads one-to-one, nurturing leads one-to-many via newsletter, what have you. And then client work, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. We've recently pivoted from video more to social media consulting, just because I wanted those two efforts to be closer to one another. Because the issue was when I was over here working on client work for social media, it did nothing for my video efforts. And when I was over here working on, client work for video, it did nothing for my social media efforts. So, if our agency becomes a social media strategy agency, then these two efforts are a lot closer and can help one another out a little bit.
Interesting. Okay, it's a cool shift. Do you enjoy that kind of work as much? And are you able to find the right kind of clients that make it as profitable as just doing solo video work was?
Definitely. I mean, so far
Yeah.
it's a new venture for us. That's been kind of fun, reporting to the audience what this is like. It's because I find myself here 17 years later, back at the beginning, and obviously, I've got a client list from the video stuff that I get to now pitch on this stuff. So I've got
Yep.
got the upper hand. I've got something that's pretty useful to be starting an endeavor with. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and it's it's a fun uh, it's a fun venture for me, and we've been able to so far do pretty good in terms of pricing these things out and working with some pretty fun clients.
Nice. So you're learning in real time and you're reporting in real time. What are some of the lessons that you're learning making this pivot and switching into like this new service offering?
Yeah, it's interesting. I would say it's first off, we're trying to figure out the best way to tell this story on social. So that's you're catching me at a time when that's the biggest problem I'm trying to solve is how do I actually convey this, because there's like lots of NDAs being signed, and it's like I can't screenshot an email and post it to stories and stuff like that. But I do
Yeah.
want to. I want to figure that part out. But yeah, I mean the stuff I'm learning, um, it's not so much learning as it's confirming. Like there's lots of there was a period, like a 2 year period, where I found myself doing a lot more um, social media education than client work. We went to almost an entirely subcontracted model at our agency because the social media stuff was such a haul, right? And there's an element there where I'm like I feel like I'm losing my edge. Like I feel like I'm not boots on the ground getting the intel, and
Yep.
is the stuff I'm talking about still relevant? Is it still And then it's just like I hadn't been on Upwork in 2 years, like or a year and a half, and so I log on just to test out a new component of our new offer, just to see if I can't find someone to pay me to test it out, and
Hmm.
and I'm like, okay, there's these 4 new features on Upwork here, like let me play with these real quick, and make these work for me, and so it's I apply the stuff that I talk about all the time, and lo and behold, we've got a massive client from Upwork, after 2 pitches. So it's been validating in that way. And it's been reaffirming in a lot of ways. So I've been enjoying that.
Very cool that you're able to kind of get that real time validation of here's the idea, here's where we're moving, and by the way, it's working because people are hiring for us in these different platforms, and even with Upwork changing how they are kind of doing their pay to play stuff, like you're still able to find some of the work from there. So that's very cool.
Yeah, I mean the Upwork thing. Just a quick note on the pay to play stuff. Like I was having this conversation at the meetup with somebody, and they were kind of poo pooing it, and I was like, this is actually really good for freelancers because I think the problem, and I don't have the in at Upwork. I haven't talked to anybody over there about this. This is pure conjecture, but I think that the problem that they were running into as a platform was, that everybody was applying to everything, and so that kind of lent to the race to the bottom criticism that you often hear about that platform, and any of the platforms, frankly. And it also led to the client side being a very inefficient, very uh, I don't know, just like labor intensive process where if you posted a job, you knew you'd have to sift through 250 pitches, and like you wear out and you go with one of the first 10 you read,
Yeah.
so it's not great for anybody. And I think that curates that effort where it's like, okay, if I have to pay to do this, then I'm going to pick my battles. And, so that's great for the freelancer because it's less competition and you're in a lineup of other people that are actually doing the thing. And it's great for the clients because there's less to pick from. So,
Yeah, it's a good point from the client side because I've posted things on there and I'm just daunted by it's almost spam of the
yeah,
amount of responses you get.
yeah.
So yeah. You mentioned kind of in your day to day, the 50-50 working in versus working on the business, and a component of it is your lead nurturing and working through the customer journey. And So talk through some of the lessons that you talk about in your social media about like nurturing leads from total strangers to a lead to a customer, and what that customer life cycle looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that's how we organize all of our business development efforts, right? Is the customer journey. It's the four stages of the customer journey: a stranger, a lead, a client, and a client for life, right? It's at any effort, that we take on behalf of our business informs one of those three transitions: transitioning somebody from a stranger to a lead, from a lead to a client, and from a client to a lifetime client, right? So stranger to lead, uh, I signify that transformation has occurred when I acquire somebody's email. So on the one to many scale, that's social media, right? If I'm putting something out that's valuable enough for somebody to give me their email address to subscribe to my newsletter or something like that, I'm doing my job over there on social media. And then on one to one, it's networking, where it's like, hey, I've got this offer. Is this something that you'd be interested in, or somebody that would be interested in? And they go, yeah, shoot me an email here, or you should talk to my boss about this, or you should talk to Mike about this. Like, I think that's, so that's what it looks like on the one to one side, and that's probably more relatable to somebody who doesn't have a huge social media following, right? And
Right.
frankly, that's more effective. I think the network is the freelancer's biggest ally for sure. And then in terms of converting someone from a lead into a customer, that's that pesky little thing that we call sales, right? Where it's hey, it's matchmaking. You're matching an offer to a need. So once you've obtained this person's email and you're in conversation with them, you identify what like major issue, what serious problem are they trying to solve for your business, and how can you help them solve it? With your service, or a tangential service that you've built out an offer with a fellow freelancer for. It's don't try to square peg round hole it. Like, literally start with their problem and work the solution from there, right? And ideally, that's something that a solution that you've got built out already. But it could be something bespoke. And then from a client to a lifetime client, that's just a process of delighting throughout the process of that first project, right? It's just like manufacturing delight. I think a lot of freelancers, miss this part. This part's a little more nuanced, where it's like, okay, customer service. What does that look like? Because it's not just being good at what you do, right? Anybody can be good at what they do. How do you design a journey that like manufactures a smile on their face? How do you, in the first 24 hours, surprise and delight them? If you on the sales call, or you on the first call say, okay, we'll get you, a lookbook on Friday or something, and it's Monday, or we'll get you a first draft of this on Monday, XYZ. You say that knowing they're going to have it in their inbox on Tuesday, right? Because when that happens, they get to go to their superiors and say, look at what a good buy I just made. This person's on top of it, right? And then it happens again at the end of the project, right? Where this whole time you've talked about, this is your deliverable, and you give them exactly what you said, and then you plus it. You say, you know what? I figured we'd add these two things too, just because I really care about this relationship, and I want to see you guys knock it out of the park. So, in the background, I went ahead and had my team throw these two together. Now, you've already budgeted for that. That was baked into what they've paid you already, right? But you've over delivered at the end, and unbeknownst to them, or they weren't suspecting it. So that's how you manufacture delight. And then you walk them from the first project to the next project before the first project is over, right? That's another way to maximize your chances of that transformation happening from client to lifetime client, where it's okay before 2 weeks before delivery, you fire off an email that's, hey, I know we're getting close on this, so this is a perfect time to talk about this. Usually once somebody has this asset, whatever you're developing, the next thing they need is this. So I want to get you optimized for that too. You got 15 minutes to talk, let's go ahead and get that one started. So that's would be the three transformations that we optimize for.
I love that. And yeah, kind of leading them into what that next engagement is, not just saying, "Hey, here's what you paid me for. See you later. Maybe we'll see you again somewhere in the saloon or whatever." So yeah, leading them into that next conversation. Talk quick about kind of what you think the keys are to kind of getting that job from like a communication standpoint. The pesky word of sales that you mentioned.
What do you mean? What's the best way to do it, like communication wise?
Yeah, I don't know. What have you found are some of like for me, it's the five whys or being curious and asking the right questions,
Okay.
and you talk a lot about like the speaking the language of the client and what their ROI is and what they need to get out of it, and some of the tricks or tips that you can share that works for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of freelancers that I've had the good fortune to talk to many over the years. There's a lot of consternation over the sales conversation, right? There's a lot of anxiety there for freelancers, and I'm here to tell you that's there's nothing to be anxious about there. You're having a conversation with another human being, right?
Yep.
Let me give you this. Let me take this off your shoulders. There is no magic combination of words that you're going to say that's going to convince somebody to work with you, right? It has nothing to do with. I think there's plenty of kind of the sales gurus out there that are like, you're going to ask this question, and when they say this, then you say this, and if they come at you with this, you negotiate, and it does not look like that in reality at all, right? All it is it's a conversation between two human beings about solving a problem, right? So I going into these calls, these discussions, all I care about is paying attention to what their problem is and being as valuable as I can in that hour or 30 minutes or however long the call is, right? Those are the two things that I write at the top of the notes every time is listen and be as impactful as you can in this hour. So that's, I mean, I don't want to overcomplicate it beyond that, right?
Yeah.
You want to make it about solving the problem. So the first thing that requires you to do is identify, get on the same sheet of music about the problem, right? So I always, start the conversation with, all right, what are we up against here? How are we measuring success for this project? And that question alone, it's illuminating to more clients than you would think, because a lot of the times they actually don't have an answer to that question, a satisfying answer at least, right? So if somebody's, if they need a website done, and then a web developer says, how are we measuring success for this? And they go, like, if we have a website, that's success. And I would encourage that developer to say, no, give me something I can measure here. Like, what is the actual goal here? Like, what are we measuring for your business to know that, we've knocked it out of the park, right? And you spend the first 20 minutes sometimes just talking about that, where it's, well, okay, if we can increase conversions or from X to Y, that'd be a pretty good year for us. Or if we can do, okay, cool. Let's talk about that, right? A website is almost ancillary to that conversation, right? I'll build you a website, but we're talking about conversions here. So like, that's the conversation I want to have, right? So make it about solving their problem and really demonstrating what you're like as a strategic partner.
So strategic partners, the thing that was rattling in my mind is how freelancers are often seen as task takers. And I can just get a freelancer to do it because it's lower budget or whatever. But you mentioned strategic partner, and I'm so glad that you did, because there's a distinct difference between how somebody can position themselves as a freelancer versus, being an actual strategic partner, charging more, not being a task taker. And, in your experience and what you guys have been able to do, how have you kind of moved upstream in that sense as well?
Have we moved off of what?
Like the mindset of a freelancer from most brands is they're a task taker,
Yeah.
and I'm going to get them more inexpensively because they're just a freelancer. It's just somebody in their apartment or whatever. Versus, like you mentioned, a strategic partner, somebody that's advising me, somebody that's
Got it.
going to really get to the true nature of my challenge and provide the right solution versus do exactly what I want them to do. That's an upstream version of of a freelancer.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that battle is won, before it's begun. It's won at the offer stage. It's how you talk about yourself. It's how you position yourself, So it's like, it's not, you're not a gun for hire. You are this result in a box. You talk about that. I think too many freelancers are like, I'm a photographer. Do you need a photographer?
Yeah.
Like that's the incorrect way. That's encouraging that type of engagement between client and freelancer. The real way that you talk about yourself is, you know, I am an increased reach on your organic, socials that looks a lot like a photograph, but what I really am is increased reach, right? Or I am, uh, stronger conversions on an ad that looks a lot like words, but really what it is it's more, I am more money in your pocket, and so you have to communicate that way. It's not about what you do, it's about what they get from what you do.
Yeah, I love that. Great framing. Awesome. Listen, I'm going to throw a couple random rapid fires at you to wrap things up. Folks, check out Jamie Brindle on all the socials at Jamie Brindle. He's got boot camps and TikToks and videos and really well built videos that I'm inspired by. But check him out. He's got some great content for everybody. First is what's the weirdest way a client has ever found you?
Oh, interesting. Weirdest way a client has ever found us. Hmm. I really want to give you a good answer to this one. I'm thinking I've got like the probably like the normal way for me back in the day was I would attend, networking events, but um I would be there for to film it, right, for work. And so I caught on to the fact, after the first one or two, that if I, even if I didn't really need to be kitted out at the moment, if I walked the floor with a Steadicam vest on and a boom mic over one hand and a light over the other hand, I'm going to get a lot more people stopping me to talk to me. So maybe that might be one where I kind of manufactured those moments a little bit in the early days, and got my fair share of business cards that way. Yeah, I mean, it's recently, it's funny that because you would think that this makes sense, but it was weird to me because we didn't build out the social media to acquire clients. So like that little anecdote I told you earlier where, I get on the call with a potential customer and they recognize me from TikTok. I was thinking, oh, that's interesting because I wasn't even talking to you. I don't know why you're watching videos about a freelancer because you're a VP of communications at this in-house agency at this Fortune 100 company. So stuff like that, I would say, but I don't have any like really weird stories. I wish I did.
Yeah, no, I get it. Even being kitted out at a networking thing is just kind of good free advertising. I dig that.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could have dinner with any two people, dead or alive, who would they be?
Oh, geez. If I could have dinner with any two people, dead or alive, man, I want to do one dead and one alive just to even out, or maybe I could do two dead. I would say, uh, huh. Charlie Chaplin. I'd be interested in talking to him just because he built such an incredible business out of his out of what could have just been an acting gig. He
Yeah.
ended up revolutionizing the way Hollywood does business. What would be an alive? Um, hmm. Gosh, I think probably Dwayne the Rock Johnson because why not? Right? That
I
guy's
mean,
always on the move. He's always doing 18 different things. I'd love to figure out like what the structure of his organization is and how he crams that much into a day. Uh,
yeah,
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
think
tag him. We'll see if we can get his attention for you.
yeah, let's do that. And then
Yeah.
we'll do a whole other episode of this question because that was painful for me because there are so many people, both dead and alive, that I want to have a conversation with. So, you know,
Yeah.
caveat is like, those are two of, 6,000 that I would answer that question with.
The on the spot aspect of it makes it that much more impossible to answer. So I fully understand and have some empathy there. Finally, what's one thing that you think agencies and freelancers waste too much time on?
Oh man. I'm kind of at war with this with freelancers right now. So I'll go with this answer is their website and portfolio. I think
Interesting.
I think that just because I've had so many conversations with freelancers um, over the years where they go, hey man, I love what you're saying. I'm so excited to get started. I can't wait to start freelancing, and I say, why haven't you started? And they go, well, I just got to get my website and portfolio put together. And I go,
Yep.
great, I can help you out right now. Doesn't matter. Get started today, and and let me know how it goes by the end of the week. I survived the entirety of my career without a website. If somebody, if I had a lead that I was interested in converting, I'd send them a link to a Google Drive folder with a few examples of what I want them to take a look at before we chat. And I'd much prefer that to sending them a link to a website and then leaving them to their own devices to peruse my work and determine what is important and what is not, because they're not the expert. They're talking to me they don't know what to look at, right? They don't know what they're trying to suss out. So all that can be done in an email. There's no need for it, and the same with the portfolio. Same story, right? Is rather than send them to, one master reel. I mean, I was in the video world, so that was our portfolio, right? Rather than send them to a reel to watch, 3 minutes of everything that we've ever done in our business, I'd rather cut something real quick together for them with 4 examples that inform the discussion that we're about to have, right? And say, here's what I think we should take a look at, together on, tomorrow. And then and walk them through it and tell them, this is why I put, in this thing, look at this real quick, because this is what I'm thinking for you, and just have it more bespoke that way. So I think that, thousands of years of freelancers' lives have been wasted on optimizing their portfolio and their website. And, hopefully with this podcast episode, we can put an end to this nonsense.
Yeah, stop hemming and hawing about if your portfolio and case studies and all that nonsense is accurate, because it's probably not, and just launch it anyway.
Yeah. And case study is another great one, right? Because that can be handled in the body of an email. Like you don't rather than give them the homework of reading a 17-page PDF about here's what their problem was, here's the challenges that were brought up by this problem, here's you can do that in 3 sentences. Hey Steve, I wanted to send you this thing that I just did for a client. They were solving for this. Here's the result. They said it immediately made me think of you. You got 15 minutes? That's all you need to do. It doesn't need to be any more complicated than that.
Keep it simple. I love it. Stop wasting time on portfolios. Massive time suck. Launch whatever you're looking to launch. Stop delaying.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Jamie, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being here with us today. And this is an awesome conversation. So thank you.
It's my pleasure. I'm happy to be here. I appreciate all the ground we've covered here today. We got some good topics.
Good stuff, man. I hope everybody gets a lot out of it. So thank you.
Thanks again for tuning in to Agency Bytes. If you know someone with expert knowledge on a topic that agency owners would love to hear about, go to agencyoutsight.com/podcast-guest and nominate them.